Today's episode is brought to you by Drift Outfitters in downtown Toronto, Ontario. Drift Outfitters is your source for all things fly fishing. From waders and boots to thread and feathers, Drift has it all. They're now open for in-store shopping, but with a COVID times twist. Along with mandatory masks, a few other things have changed. So check in on their website to find their latest updates and policies. Safety first, fly fishing second. Curbside pickup for your online or phone orders is still a great way to get all the gear you need, and they're still shipping across Canada for free on orders over $100. Visit driftoutfitters.com to learn more. Hello and welcome to another episode of So Fly. It is September, the beginning of September, and we're back in the studio recording another show. My name is Mitch, and we've got Aldo.
Hello, everyone.
And we're super excited today to be talking to another guest from the States today. We're up here in Canada, and we're talking to Jen Ripple. Jen is she's the editor-in-chief and publisher of the international fly fishing lifestyle magazine, Done Magazine, and she also sits on a number of fly fishing boards. She's a member of the board of directors of Fly Fishing International. She's a former member of the board of directors for the American Fly Fishing Trade Association, and she's a huge advocate for getting women into fly fishing, which is awesome. And we met her through our new friend, Susan Thrasher, who we had on the show a couple episodes ago. Jen, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're super excited to chat today about all the stuff you do. I mean, you're obviously a huge advocate of the fly fishing culture and world. Whereabouts are you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from Dover, Tennessee, which is where my house and office is. So, yeah, you had Susan on. She's a little bit, she's much closer to Nashville than I am. I'm in an area called the Land Between the Lakes, which is the largest inland peninsula in the United States.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
There's got to be some good fish in there.
Okay, well, I'm looking that up.
Yeah, look it up. So I actually am fortunate to live on 10 acres, and my 10 acres backs up to that public land. So My backyard is 180,000 acres.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I know, right? I always say I have 31 boat ramps in my backyard.
Love that. Oh my God. So have you been out fishing recently? Have you been able to get onto the water?
Yeah. So, I live on Kentucky Lake, and you might have heard of Kentucky Lake before. Kentucky Lake is where professional bass anglers win millions of dollars every year. And yeah, so it's a really big bass lake. But lately we've had a big influx of Asian carp, which has really been detrimental. So we're fighting those. But the water temperature is super, super warm right now. It's very warm in Tennessee. And so the fishing has been kind of crappy, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that happens. Asian carp, though, that's crazy. Like, is that just like a new thing that's kind of flared up?
I moved here 4 years ago, and it was not bad. And I would say in the last 2 years, it's gotten really, really bad. In fact, so the Land Between the Lakes is made up by a peninsula. On the west side, it's the Tennessee River that is dammed to create Kentucky Lake. And on the right side, or on the east side, it's the Tennessee River, the Cumberland River that's dammed to create Lake Barkley. Okay. And so in Barkley, there are a lot of the jumping carp that will jump in your boat and do some damage. That's the predominant carp that's in Barkley. And then in Kentucky Lake, they have the ones that don't jump into your boat as much, but they're just so many. There's got to be millions of them in there. I mean, you can't even use your electronics without seeing just huge pods of Asian carp.
Oh my God.
Wow.
That's wild.
That's wild.
Yeah.
What do you know what else is wild? I'm looking at Land Between the Lakes. You're right. It's it's a perfect peninsula.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is. Who knew, right? I mean, I moved here sight unseen from Chicago. Just literally got in my car, opened up a map and was like, oh, look at all that water. There's got to be a town there. And look at how great the fishing must be there. And found the little town of Dover.
There.
And, yeah, right. And I went on Craigslist and was like, are there any houses for rent? Because I was like, I don't know this place. I'm not going to buy a house right away. Yeah. So I drove down with my mom, was in the town for like 20 minutes and said, okay, I'll take the house that I now own. And went back, packed everything up, drove down here, moved in, went into town to buy a bottle of wine, and I'd moved to a dry county.
Oh, no way.
Oh no.
Yeah, I had no idea there was such a thing coming from Wisconsin and Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I spent enough time in Chicago that definitely not a dry city.
No.
Oh, man. That's too
Oh
funny.
man. Oh, that's funny.
Well, what-
Well, maybe
Yeah, well, what were you gonna say, Aldo? Please.
probably about the same thing you were going to say, which is that. Well, there sounds like, I mean, we've got a lot to unpack here because I'd love to talk about the area that you fish in.
Yeah.
And I know, Mitch, you were probably about to say something about, let's start talking about your fly fishing life and then get into all the work you do
Yeah.
Yes.
as well.
Yeah. Like, how did you even get started in fly fishing? Like, why don't we go right back to the start?
Yeah, sure. So I came in through the back door of fly tying. I was living in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and one really cold winter, I was looking for something to do, and the local fly shop had a fly tying class, and I honestly didn't even really know what that was, but thought it sounded much more interesting than like crocheting or something. So I went to the fly shop and for my first class, and I absolutely fell in love with everything that was fly. At that moment, it was like I was home. It was like what I was supposed to do. So I started, that was in the
Awesome.
winter time. So I tied flies all winter long that year. And then as soon as the ice was off the Huron River, I would just leave my work and go right into the river and just spend hours and hours teaching myself to fly fish.
Oh man, that's amazing. You got started fly tying. Like, I think that's the first time I've ever heard that happen.
Yeah, it's backwards,
It's so
but
cool.
it worked for me.
Yeah, that's wicked. Do you remember what your first fly was that you tied?
Oh, it was a woolly bugger for
Oh
sure.
yeah, love that.
Right, of course. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So when was the first time you got out into the water? Like, because you were tying flies, so did you just grab a rod and just jump in?
Yeah, so I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I was doing, and I only knew what I had gleaned from the people that were in my fly tying class, and at the fly shop. So I, at that time, I wasn't like really didn't have that much money.
Yeah.
So I went on Craigslist and bought a 5-weight rod and reel and line, and actually I took it all into the fly shop, and they were like, "Oh no, that's not the right line. You need to buy this $100
Yeah.
Rio Gold line right here." And
Of
so,
course, yeah.
so I did that, and I will say it made a world of difference,
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And but my first rod was a Sage light line with a Ross Gunnison reel, one of the old Gunnison reels, and I loved it. And from that moment forward, I just collected every single light line that Sage made in every single weight.
Yeah.
And then I started, like, when I started getting different gear and newer gear, I started liquidating those rods, and they were literally worth more than what I had purchased them for. They had like a cult following,
Oh,
and for
wow.
good reason.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never fished those rods. What is it like fishing with them? Like, what makes them special?
They're just really responsive, and they are the perfect rod. They have a really great action. They're
Yeah.
a softer rod. In fact, Sage just came out with the light line again. They just started making the light line.
Oh, nice.
It's a rod that was made originally like in the 90s.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
I was just about to ask, I think, if you're a rod aficionado, I think you can put together your timeline, but I was going to say, how long ago was that fish? I guess the 90s then.
That's right.
Yeah.
So fly fishing really kind of just took over, and you just jumped in. Like, where did it go from there? Like, was it just like love, you're into it, fishing all the time, or was it sort of a slower progression?
Yeah, every single day after work that I was like able to, I was in the river. I mean, literally, I worked at the University of Michigan, so the Huron River I could see it from my office, and it was literally feet from my car to the river. So I just kept my waders in there, and I just spent every day that I could there. In fact, it was the demise of one of my relationships, because the guy that I was dating at the time didn't fish. And so and you know how it is, like you just become this obsessed freak. And so I would spend all these hours in the water and then get out of the water and be like, oh my God, it's been like 5 hours.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to meet him for dinner. And so I'd call him and I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he'd be like, oh, sure, you were on the river by yourself. And it was that moment, I was just like, this is not going to work for me any longer. And so at that moment, I said to myself, I was like, I will never date anyone again that doesn't already know how to fly fish and doesn't come with better gear than I already own.
Hey, that's a good rule.
And at the beginning, for the first couple of years, that really worked for me. But then I got into fly fishing. And so, I got into the industry. And so now I would be hard pressed to find somebody that has better gear than me. So I always figure I'm a pretty good catch because I come with a lot of expensive gear.
I love that. It's amazing.
That's That's great.
Were you were you fishing for like all bass and stuff like that at that time, like warm water fish, or?
Yeah, it was all bass in that
Okay.
river. In fact, I fished, for like, it was a couple of years before someone said to me, well, you can't catch bass on a fly rod. You're supposed to fish for trout. And I was like, I am? Oh my God, what's a trout?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I know it's funny the misconceptions people have about like what you can and cannot catch on a fly rod, like I don't.
Oh yeah, so many.
Yeah.
Bass is definitely first, I think, both for me and Mitch. Like we grew up in a warm water area.
Water fishing.
So we
It's
just
so
did
fun.
that.
Bass on fly rod are so fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I love it. Absolutely.
So fun. So what was your first okay, you're obsessed with fly fishing, you ditched the boyfriend who's a loser. And but then you dive into fly fishing professionally. So what was the first foray into that, or how did that happen how did it go from passion to profession? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was at the time, so I was in Michigan and then I moved back to Chicago. The vast majority of my adult life, I've lived in Chicago. And so I moved back from Michigan to Chicago. And when I did that, I was writing a blog called Arsenic and Church Grace, which is for a whole nother podcast. But yeah. So
looking that up too.
it's not on there anymore, and there's a good reason for that. And
okay.
I can tell you that off. So I moved back to Chicago, and when I moved back to Chicago, the area that I moved into had a little tiny fly shop / rod building store in it. And I went in there, and the guy said to me, "Oh, you should look up this magazine. It's brand new." And the two guys who started it, they are doing a fly tying class here on Thursday nights. And so I said, "Oh, cool." So I looked it up. It was called a Tight Loop magazine, and it was a Midwest fly fishing magazine. And so I started going to the fly tying group. And the guy who owned the magazine, he had known about the Arsenic and Church Grace podcast website. Mm-hmm. And so he said to me, "Oh, well, you're a writer. Would you like to write a woman's column for the magazine?" And I thought, well, yeah, I'd love to. I mean, I don't know that much about it, but I'd be happy to write what I do know. And so I started writing that art column. And but it was really like a double entendre kind of thing they wanted, so I wrote articles like the sex hatch and 8 inches and all these ridiculous articles. Yeah. And they were fun. I mean, I love to write double entendre stuff, but I really wanted to write something that was going to be a legit kind of piece. And so, and I wanted to submit it to a women's magazine, a women's fly fishing magazine. So I looked around for one and discovered there wasn't one. So that was June of 2013. And so by September of 2013, we had our first magazine.
Wow. That's amazing.
Wow.
So you guys kind of just kicked it off and just did it yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs, and I've owned a business since I was 21. So it was, once I get an idea in my head, that's it. I don't stop until it's actually there.
Yeah.
That's great. Were you writing at the University of Michigan, or?
No, I was working. I was working in a lab there.
Oh, okay.
Was Arsenic and Church Grace a fishing blog, or was this a lab blog of some kind?
No. So interesting backstory. I was married to a pastor, so it was like my exile from the church, and I published that until I got a call from the Church of Satan who wanted me on their radio show, and I was like, that is not
exactly the target audience.
Yes, exactly. It was an expose on the church, but not that kind. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, cool. No, for sure. Yep.
Satan, yes, the Satan show. That is definitely, maybe gone a little too far.
That's a hard pass. Yeah.
Yeah, good call. Good call. Well, that's cool. So you couldn't find a magazine in June. You've got it in. You launched done in. Sorry, it was September 2013, right?
Yeah.
And it was an online magazine?
It started out only as an online magazine. And so back in 2013, I should say that a Tight Loop magazine was only made as a digital magazine. That's what its purpose was. Mm-hmm. And back then, everybody was saying that print was dead. And so the online culture was the way it was. And I'm very conservation minded. So, the thought of chopping down trees to make a magazine and all that stuff was just so, it didn't make sense to me at that time. There were no recycled papers. There was no vegetable inks. It wasn't conservation minded to print at that time. And so And, looking back on it, I was really smart because doing it as an online magazine to begin with built up a huge audience so that when we came out with the print magazine, we already had an audience to sell it to. So, I'd like to say that was my business plan to start with, but it really wasn't. I got lucky.
Super smart. It makes a ton of sense. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What were some of did you write all the articles yourself, or you had a group, like a roster of writers that you pulled from?
Yeah. So when I first started, I'm a really good networker. And I don't get easily offended. And maybe that's because I have such an entrepreneurial background, but I figured I'm just going to write to all these people. I mean, I was a no name. Nobody knew who I was at that time.
Mm-hmm.
No one had ever heard of the magazine before. So this was my first foray into working in the fly fishing industry. And so I just contacted everybody that I thought was cool out there, anybody I heard of, and just decided to tell the everyday angler story, not the professional story. And so everybody, I thought I'm just going to reach out to everybody and anyone I think is cool. And if they say no, I'm not going to take that personally. And then to my surprise, they all said yes.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
I had all these people who were all these women who were so excited to just tell their stories. And so, it just grew organically.
I mean, it's amazing that you finally were able to give people that, didn't have the stage before the microphone and say, okay, tell your story, right? Because it's like, I mean, at that time, I don't know, I wasn't an angler then, and I'm also not a woman, but I can imagine it was frustrating, probably.
Oh, I didn't even know that there were other women out there. I mean, I heard in Michigan that there was a woman who, when I first started, there was a woman who had come to the fly shop. And then as I got into it, over the next year, I realized that the Michigan fly girls were there. Mm-hmm. And so I had a small group to actually belong to. But, back then, I didn't see women in the fly shop. It was unusual for women to be in the fly shop. Yeah. It was extremely male dominated back then. And so, I thought women were new to the sport. That's what I thought. I didn't realize we had such a huge history.
Yeah, 100%. Did you feel like you had a place in the fly fishing industry, where you were and at that time, before the magazine?
I felt like I was a pioneer. Mm-hmm. I really did. I didn't know that so many great women had come before me. I just had never heard of them, never seen them. No one talked about them. Yeah. Social media wasn't what it is now. So, you couldn't see them online.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Okay. One thing I'm wondering, because I wonder about this a lot with people that fly fish for a passion and then get into it as a profession. Did you find that you got tired of fly fishing at all? Did it change the love of fly fishing at all for you when you had to suddenly work in the area?
No, I was so excited about it. And there's so many great women that I met along the journey, and so many great women who have started businesses since I started the magazine that have just become such great friends of mine. I think that, they say water seeks its own level. And I think that the people that get into fly fishing all are at a certain level of type of person. They're conservation minded. We love the outdoors. I mean, and when you have that kind of passion in common, you don't lose that. I mean, do I love the fact that sometimes I have to deal with old white guys who just won't stop talking? Yeah. I kind of, that gets old once in a while, but for the most part, I love what I do still.
Yeah, it's cool. I wonder that's on us. People are like, oh, you have a fly fishing podcast. You must get sick of fishing and stuff. Fly fishing, oh man, you work. I'm like,
not really.
No, kind of all I want to do actually. Fly fishing is an interesting thing that way, you can just fully commit everything to it, and it's you're kind of happy, it doesn't get old.
Right. Yeah.
So then, do you mentioned it started as an online magazine. So how often are you doing print, or do you still do print, or not so much?
Yeah, up until COVID, we did 4 issues a year.
Oh, nice.
We started out as a quarterly, and we still were until COVID. And now with ad sales and all the manufacturers kind of putting a halt on their ad sales and their ad budgets, we're behind. And what that looks like going forward, to be honest, I don't know. We've grown. Fortunately for us, we were an online platform before, so the vast majority of our audience is used to our digital, so it's no big deal for us to just continue to put up content. We didn't have to work through, oh my gosh, how do we do a website?
How do we do this?
It was just business as usual for us. So at the moment our print is on hold, but we're looking forward to it starting up shortly.
Cool. So then you're still putting out quarterlies during COVID, digitally as well?
So during COVID we put out stuff on a weekly basis.
Oh, great.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's super
Great. Mm-hmm.
What kind of challenges did you face, like starting up the magazine? Like I imagine it can be kind of tricky to get something like that going.
Yeah, so I was really lucky. So I partnered with the guy who was the editor of a Tight Loop magazine that had the digital magazine, who happens to be a ridiculously smart web programmer. So he wrote every single line of code. It was all handmade software. It still is. That didn't cost me anything because it was a joint effort.
Yeah.
And because we offered all of our content for free online, and our subscription didn't didn't cost you anything to join, I could really put out a lot of content for no money.
Mm-hmm.
And so that wasn't really an issue. I will say that I thought that more manufacturers would jump on the women's bandwagon, and they didn't. It took a long time. And I will say that Orvis and Trout Unlimited were the two major, ad partners that came on and said, we value the female angler, and really started things off. But that was my biggest challenge. And I'll tell you why it was. I'm sure this is what it was. I love to do research, so I know this is what it was. When you have,
I love the conviction. I love it.
So when you have a good old boys club that has been dealing with the same magazines and the same ad partners for a very long time, they become your friends. And so, taking money away from Joe, whose house you go to in Montana every year, is not something that you're going to do. Even if you can prove that your ad dollars would be better spent somewhere else, they're just not going to do that. And so it took us a long time. It took me a long time to have a legitimate face in the industry so that they would jump ship and put their money behind the women in the industry. And that was a smart move, because women spend money when they get into this field. I mean, when they get into this sport, they spend money buying gear. They love gear, so.
So a big part of it was really just breaking up that old boys club and just causing a rift so that you can move in and things start to, loosen up a bit.
They had to cause a ripple in the industry.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah,
nice.
that's great. Are you finding, obviously things have changed in the 7 years that you've been, publishing. Do you think it's easier for women to break into fly fishing
Absolutely.
than ever before? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and as much as people say that social media has been detrimental to women in the industry, and I think that some of them have, some of it has, the vast majority of women get involved today because they see other women on social media like Instagram out there doing it, not making a perfect cast, but having a great time, not catching a fish, but really appreciating the camaraderie that's been brought by the women in the industry. There's women like Heather Hodson, who has done the United Women on the Fly. And so you, as a woman, you can go to her website and click on any state you're going to go visit and find women, and you can get together with them to fish and sleep on their couch. And, so creating a network of women that you can go out and fish with has really broken down the barriers that women, 7 years ago faced getting into the sport.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, that's a good point of building a network of just like-minded anglers.
Yeah, I mean, social media 100% opens it up, so that you can see. It's just again, it connects the community internationally, right? Like abroad, you get to see. I mean, we meet people all over the place because of Instagram. People we wouldn't have met otherwise. So it is
like Chloe.
Sure.
Yeah, like Chloe, our friend in Montana.
Like Chloe, our friend in Montana. That's literally how we met.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I meet the vast majority of my authors come to me with stories that have seen this on Instagram, or that I've seen on Instagram, or my staff has.
That's pretty awesome.
Is it 100% female contributors?
It is not. We always say that we like to empower women and not ignore men. So we have had,
I like it.
Yeah, we have had some men who have contributed. In our first edition, you'll love this, our first digital edition that ever came out, I had Hank Patterson. Do you know who he is?
I don't know who Hank Patterson is.
Oh my God. Okay,
I know. I feel like
look at his videos.
I feel like such an idiot.
So he is like your fly fishing guide, and he does all these videos, but they're all spoofs.
Okay.
And so he's really funny. And so I contacted him and said, hey, Hank, I'd love for you to do an article in our all women's magazine on the perfect date on the river. So he did this spoof, and it was really funny. It was like well, bring him his favorite beer and make him the perfect sandwich. And then at the end, it was like, and now that he's passed out because he drank too much, you can actually do some legitimate fishing. That's really funny. But as soon as the magazine went online, I had a woman contact me and she was like, this is why women will never be taken serious in the industry. You're saying that women should make sandwiches for men. And I was like,
didn't get the satire.
It was a spoof. And she was like, oh, and so, but I will say that like 99% of our authors are female.
Cool.
And our audience is very, very, the women in the industry, they like that. Like I just published an article that was written by a man on fishing in the pandemic, and it was written by a guy, and I put it out there because it was really timely. And immediately a woman writes back, this sounds like it's written by a man. And then I looked and it was, and I'm like, oh my God. So we have a news section that's coming out, that's called From the Other Side of the Stream. And that's kind of, a male authors that we like and we appreciate. And so, we don't discriminate against that, but we do feel like women in the industry need to have a voice. And so
for sure. For sure. I need, everyone needs their kind of, I don't know, their own space from their own perspective, right? I mean, that's the whole point. Right. I think there's enough dudes saying things in fly fishing.
There are.
Oh yeah.
Like us.
Hey.
Hey.
Totally. So you were also, you were on the board of FFI and AFTA. Like what was your role on those boards? Like what was that? What did that entail?
Yeah, so I'm still on the board of Fly Fishers International. This is my second full term with them. I love the direction they're taking now. They really have done a 180 and are getting away from that good old white boys club.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm on their education committee. I'm on their Women's Connect committee, stuff like that. I help with their website design. And then on the AFTA board, I was a board member and I was their nominating committee chair. So helping to get new people on board. I did leave my position there early. So my term would have been up like in October, but I left like maybe in February of this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So fair enough. I mean, that's really great to hear about FFI though, like actually like sort of changing the ways of their past. I mean, it's such a crazy thing to think fly fishing is kind of like almost leading the way in a lot of ways, like in a lot of different compared to a lot of other outdoors activities and sports,
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I really, really appreciate Patrick Berry, who's the new president of, I guess he's the president of it, the new president of the FFI board. I mean, he just really brings a whole dynamic that is just like he plays in a band and he swears like a sailor. And I'm like, yeah,
it's great. It's great. It's kind of taking away that elitist attitude fly fishing's had for so many years,
Yeah. Yes, it needed to go down.
Yeah.
Well, if you like those things, you should fish in Ontario.
Yeah. My mom used to have a house in Ontario.
Oh, yeah?
No way.
I have fish there. Uh-huh.
Oh, no way.
Whereabouts in Ontario, do you know?
In Dryden. So do you know where Lake Wabigoon and Lake Denoric are?
Yeah, I know where Dryden is.
Yeah, we definitely know Dryden.
Yeah, so she was in the Narrows right there next to Huber's Lodge. So she had the house next to there.
That's great. There you go.
Okay, cool. I was going to say we both played in bands and we both swear like crazy. So
yeah, right.
That's awesome.
Oh, shit. It's really cool. Do you think we're headed in a good direction? Like, I just wanted to bring the conversation back a little bit to like representation in media. I think a while ago I listened to a really great podcast about fly fishing and like. Yeah, this kind of like brand sexualization of women in fly fishing. I think we're kind of like pink rods and pink waders. And it's like, I don't want to hate on somebody who wants to wear pink waders, but at the same time, like from a branding,
like marketing.
From a branding, it's kind of, I don't know.
It's like forced. It's like forced in a way, like they're trying to like, I don't know. It's not all brands, but some brands definitely you feel that like segregation, like gender kind of segregation.
Oh yeah.
I guess the question is, do you think we're in a better spot now, or do you think it's exacerbated through maybe Instagram?
No, I think that we are in a much better spot, especially in the gear category. Like when they first started coming out with women's waders, it was, kind of the pink it and shrink it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, now
that's a great way to say it.
Right. Exactly. They took all the, They took all the technicality out, and they figured, well, women are just little pretty things that want to go with their boyfriends on the river, and they just want to look like they're going to fish, but they're just going to sit and doodle in their journals or something. I don't know. And so you'd get these waders, but the pockets, like steelhead waders, the pockets would be underwater, like down where your pants pockets were. You're like, seriously? Like, but now they've done that has done a 180 as well. You know, as they see the influx of women coming into the sport who are spending money, they want to make gear that fits them. No one wants to fish or be outside if you're uncomfortable, and wearing your dad's waders are just uncomfortable. So I mean, there are so many great products out there now for women that there's no reason women cannot be comfortable and get into the industry and feel like they belong.
Yeah, that's great. It's 2020, damn it. You know, like
that's
now's the time. That's what I'm talking about.
Why can't it be 2021 already? I'm ready for this to be done.
I know.
I know.
Speaking of that and
Seriously.
COVID, like, I mean, we haven't been able to travel very much. Like, do you usually travel a lot to fish? Like, what's this year been like for you?
Yeah, so usually I am on the road probably 3 out of the 4 weeks of the month. So since March, I haven't traveled hardly at all. I was just in Panama City Beach a couple weeks ago, and then last week I was in the driftless area of Wisconsin, but before that I didn't travel at all. And so, you know, it's been a big life-changing, you know, kind of way for me as an editor, but it's been good too, because I could sit back and be home and reevaluate the direction of the magazine.
Yeah, it's true.
That's true.
A good point, actually. It has come with silver linings. I think everybody's kind of like taking time to just look at things with a different lens.
Yeah, I mean, from our brand's perspective, we, you know, went pretty hard on podcasting. We were doing one a week for a while there.
And fishing closer to home too, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say, so that might be a nice segue into, have you rediscovered your home waters? And maybe we can talk about that the Asian carp problem.
Sure. Yeah. So for sure I have. You know, I've always been living the vast majority of my life in Chicago, where, you know, it's Lake Michigan and there's ponds and it's urban fishing. I mean, you have to, when it takes you an hour to go, you know, 5 miles, you have to fish close to home. So I've always been a big advocate of fishing your home waters. You know, and now people don't have as much money, right? A lot of people don't have as much money because some people have lost their jobs. So fishing at home and having those public lands and the public access areas to go fishing has become really important. That's been renewed in a lot of people's minds. And so, I have done a lot more fishing close to home on Kentucky Lake. Even though it sucks, it's better than not fishing at all, right?
And it sucks because it's just like, what sucks about Kentucky Lake? Just the Asian carp problem?
The Asian carp problem, the water's really, really warm. Right. I will say that, you know, when you fish with a fly rod in a really, really big lake, the fish, when they go deep. And so I can throw a sink tip, but it's got to be a massive sink tip, and I got to let it wait. So, like, you know, I can drink a whole beer while it's sinking to the bottom. So that's fast.
I know it's not the most exciting fishing, you know?
Right, exactly. But it's still fishing, and it's still better than nothing, right? I mean, it's still much better. And, you know, it's been fun to try to figure out where they go, because the lakes are so massive. And I've really gotten into gar fishing. So I have a place here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, on Lake Barkley, I discovered what I call a garden.
Oh, that's great.
Right. And so I've been fishing the garden. We have like 4 different species of gar here, and they're huge. So
that's 4 different species of gar. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you guys get like the alligator gar, like the big?
Yep.
Big guys?
We get the giant guys. We get the bottlenose. We get, you name it, small nose. We get them all.
Oh my God, that's how did you get into gar? Like, what was you just like? Oh, there's gar in my backyard. I'm gonna go try to catch one.
No, you know, I didn't know that they were there, and we were fishing in Lake Barkley, and you could see like something coming up to the surface all the time. There'd be these things coming up to the surface, and I had no idea what they were. And then all of a sudden, we were talking to one of the locals, and he was like, "Oh, that's gar," and we were like, "Gar, rope flies,
rope flies."
Yes,
exactly.
Let's go tie some rope flies. And the fun thing about gar is they're so aggressive that if you just get the fly, and they're not particular, so if you get the fly in front of them, they're gonna go at it.
Oh man!
And they're fun to catch, but they're slimy, and they're strong, and they're dangerous, and they smell. And so when you get them in the boat, they make a huge mess.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man,
they're so cool looking though.
So,
they're such an interesting looking fish, you know. Gar.
fly? Is it a two fly and then you add the rope on the end, or?
Yeah. So what I've been tying lately is just a clouser type minnow with one small strand of nylon rope in it. And it doesn't even have to be that long, just that big, like a fly that's about, I don't know, maybe 3 inches or so. And you just throw that. Doesn't even have to look pretty. You just get it right in front of them. Did you know, here's an interesting fact, that gar, they used to use the scales of gar to put on the snow plows because they're so strong. They would use them on the snow plows. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy, man. I mean, they look like it. They're like shields,
Yeah, they're really like prehistoric. They're very much like tarpon, in that they breathe air, and they've been around for a very long time.
So it's just like
they have really, really, really sharp teeth.
Oh yeah, I imagine that. I mean, I can't.
Sorry, wait a minute. They mean like they surface to breathe air with the snout?
Yes.
Yeah, they stick it out of the water.
Yep.
Like a snorkel. That's crazy. I've never caught a gar. I've never.
We did have gar in Ottawa growing up. I can't say if I've ever caught one. I've seen them, but yeah.
So cool.
Oh man, you gotta go try.
Yeah.
They're fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love how they hit anything, like just life. If it moves, like they'll smoke it. That's perfect.
Oh yeah.
I can dig it.
Yep.
That's so fun. So okay, so then Asian carp, like that's an interesting thing to me. It's kind of foreign to us up here because like we hear it as a threat to the Great Lakes, and like, oh, it might get in and then maybe work its way up our river systems. What's the problem like down there? Like, has it gone away a little bit, or is it still like a serious threat?
No, it's a huge threat, and you do not want it up there. I mean, it takes over. So they're plankton eaters, and that's your problem. They are prolific breeders, and they are plankton eaters. So they take away your food source at the very basic level. And when that happens, you have major problems, and then you think about millions of fish that are huge everywhere, and they're afraid. So like if a bird flies over, the whole water erupts because they're afraid of the shadow that the bird has made. I mean, it's just it's bizarre. Now, my partner, he snags them, like he fishes for them, and then as they get closer, he like can snag them, kind of like I would imagine you do a milkfish. They're also plankton eaters. So they're really fun to catch, but they seriously look like the most bizarre half-breed of fish that you've ever seen.
Yeah, they've got that droopy eye, like kind of hanging.
Yeah, it's way down, right? Exactly.
That's weird. Yeah, like Sloth from the Goonies or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they look like.
Such a weird-looking fish. Yeah, we've heard so many things about them, like, oh, if they get to the Great Lakes, it's like game over. And I see the videos of them jumping out of the water. I'm just like, good Lord, man! Like, how is that? I don't understand how that's a thing. Like, how the fish are just that. How they breed like that. How they eat like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, right. And you know what? It's scary. It really can scare the living daylights out of you because you're just trolling along. You're just like moving from one place to another. And all of a sudden you hear this giant splash behind you, or worse yet, you got this 20-pound fish flopping around in your boat.
God, yeah.
And you got fly rods all over, and you're afraid they're going to break the fly rods, and you're trying to get it out of the boat. And at this time, there's slime all over, and you're falling all over. I mean, they can really do some damage.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I've seen some pretty big ones, and I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So,
crazy.
I mean, is there a plan? Is there a way to combat them? Do you just release an army of gar against them and hope that they eat them all, or?
God. It would be awesome if something ate them, but nothing eats them, which is also
really
a problem. Yeah. So what they're doing here in Kentucky Lake is they have started to like shock the water. In fact, my neighbor is Jeff is the head of the Army Corps of Engineers here, and so I said to him one day, I said, why can't they just shock the water like they do when they do a fish count and get them all to the surface and just drag them all out. So they have started to do that. Yeah. I think that was already in the works. It wasn't my idea. I'm not like credited with that or anything. But so that has started to take root, but we need for there to be some companies that will do something with all of these fish, You can't, there's so many of them, right?
Yeah, it's not like you can just like throw them in the woods.
God. Well, they do that. There's a big population down here in Tennessee that does the bow, they shoot a bow at them, but they just leave them rot everywhere, which is not the answer
gross.
either.
Yeah.
That's definitely not the answer at all.
Jeez.
No.
Well, hopefully the shocking helps, and hopefully We figure some way to contain that because it's what a weird crisis that is.
Oh my God. Right.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Okay. So every episode we ask guests the same 5 questions. They're called Mitchie's Fishies 5 because my name's Mitchie and there's 5 questions and they're about fish. Hey, I'm a writer. Can you tell?
And we're not, I was going to say, we don't have the catchphrases down as good as you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
What was it? Shrink it and pink it was the.
Drink it and pink it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I also liked prolific. What was it? Prolific eater, plankton eater, something like that. You made a good rhyme a little while back.
Yeah.
It's great. If you're listening, everybody rewind, check that out. Okay, so the same 5 questions we're gonna ask you. We're gonna ask them right now. The first one is, what is your favorite fish and why?
My favorite fish would happen to be, let me think. I got so many.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? I really like to fish for giant jacks.
Oh, nice.
And that's not something that people go after, but I really like them.
They're so cool. Aldo loves them. I mean, these guys caught them down in Mexico, and they were talking about them nonstop.
Man. Like I don't get why they don't get the
fish love. Man.
The fish love. You know, they're so strong. They take part. Even the small ones. You know, you run up. I think that was the first fish I ever caught in a salt. Was like just this little, little jack, and I'm like, I thought, I was like,
you have a shark.
I was like, oh, I got something crazy. And then like this little jack comes in. But then you're like, when you start thinking, you're like, oh my God, imagine if I caught a big one. And then we did in Mexico, like some sizable jacks. And we were catching them on poppers in the surf.
Yes.
And that was like, sorry, I totally cut you off. But what was your first jack? What was your first jack, or what made that impression?
Oh, so, I mean, and I agree with you. I would rather catch giant jacks than bonefish any day. I mean, I don't understand why it's not a thing. But what started me on that was I went to Cuba with the people from Temple Fork Outfitters, the owners of Temple Fork Outfitters.
Nice.
It was super fun, and was on a liveaboard for a week with them. And every day we would like take a skiff out, and myself and another person would go out on the skiff, and we spend all day out there fishing, flats fishing, and then come back to the liveaboard. And one day I was out on the boat with Rick Pope, who is the owner of TFO Rods. And so thank God he was on the boat, because I was on the front and the guide said, oh, tarpon. And I was like, those aren't tarpon, but those are giants. I don't know what they are, but I'm going to fish them. So I cast to him and hooked into one of them, and it was a giant jack. And I'm telling you, that thing did not know it was even hooked for a very long time. And I remember Rick saying to the guide, like, are you going to go chase after it? And the guide said, no, she can fight it from here. And so Rick turns around and he says to the guide, that's going to be reflected in your tip.
Yeah, seriously.
But fortunately for me, I think I had an 8 weight or something at the time. It was a small rod, and 10 weight. And, having Rick on the boat was great, because he walked me through how to use the angles of that fly rod to get that giant jack in, And so when they brought it in, I was like, oh my God, this is like the biggest fish I've ever caught up to this date. Right. And then the guide promptly stuck it on the ground with a wet towel on it and put his foot on it. And we headed towards the liveaboard, because we were going to eat that sucker. And I didn't even know that we could do that. Yeah. And so after I got over the shock, we ate that for 4 days like every different type of, like, we had it like tuna, sushi. We had it in, ceviche. We had it in everything. In fact, one of the jokes on the boat was like, what were we going to eat if you didn't catch that?
Man, that's a big fish.
That's a big jack.
Yeah. So it was really fun. So that was like when I really fell in love with jacks.
I love that, man. I got to catch a jack.
Mitch, you'd love it, man.
They're so cool looking too. Like, what's not to love about a jack? Especially when they're huge.
You come across a little school of them, and really like changes the day. Yeah, because you're staring at the ocean, hoping a bonefish materializes, and then all of a sudden you see this like a little pod of 10 fish, and you're just like, sweet jack. And they're hitting the fly. They're hitting the fly. So
it's going to be a fight.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, number 2 of Mitchie's Fishies 5 is if you could fish anywhere in the world right now, assuming it's like the best time of year to go there, where would you go and why?
I would go to Oman, and I would fish for yellow permit with my friend Claire Carter, who owns Arabian Fly Fishing.
That's wild. That's such a great answer.
Great answer.
Have you ever been there before, or would it be like the first time?
This would be the first time. It's on my bucket list. It's been on my bucket list ever since I met Claire.
Yeah.
She was on the cover of our first ever print edition, and I love her. She's amazing. So yeah, I have to go do that.
Oh my God, that's an amazing answer. Do you say yellow permit?
Yeah, yellow permit.
Oh, cool. I didn't even know there was a yellow permit.
Yeah, I mean,
no
you
idea.
should. You'll have to go and look at her article on our online.
I'm
It's amazing.
definitely
Look up
going to.
Arabian fly fishing. It's incredible.
Okay, I'll check that
So
out.
I'm looking at Arabian fly fishing right now. So cool. Yeah, I didn't realize there was yellow permit until I think it was an F3T I was at.
Oh yeah.
And then they kept referring to a fish as the yellow bastard, and then they showed a picture of it. I think it was like an Australian fly fishing thing anyway. And I was like, oh, is that just a permit? And then I started like Googling, and I was like, oh, yellow permit.
Yellow permit. Yep.
Oman would be a heck of a trip.
Arabian fly
yeah.
fishing looks so cool.
That's wild.
I know, right? It's amazing. You should have Claire on your podcast.
Oh,
She's
we totally
awesome.
should. Yeah.
Yeah, we should totally go to Oman and record the podcast there.
Yes, you should.
That's a great idea. I love that.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's a great answer. I think it's the first time we've ever gotten Oman. Definitely Oman. Okay, number 3 is, what is your best or favorite fishing memory, or one of your best fishing memories from over the years?
Oh, so I would say that one of my best fishing memories ever was when I took my mom and my 2 younger daughters to the driftless area of Wisconsin for the first time, and they all picked up a fly rod and fished in the driftless for the first time ever.
Oh, that's an awesome memory. Yeah. Did they catch fish?
My one daughter did catch fish.
Nice.
My mother was dressed in all black and looked like something out of a horror movie. And my other daughter is an excellent caster, but did not get lucky.
That's a fun day though. That's the best. I love
Yeah.
that. Honestly,
for
spending
sure.
time on the water with people that, you like spend time, like that is kind of the best memory.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 4 is, why do you fly fish? What do you get out of fly fishing?
What don't I get out of fly fishing?
Yeah, true.
I mean, every part of, I fish for different reasons, but at this point it is so it's part of who I am. It runs through my veins that I think that if I couldn't fly fish, I would probably die.
Yeah.
That's why, because I have to.
Yeah, because you have to. That makes sense. I mean, yeah, it runs, and it is like such a big part of your life specifically too, just because you do so many things in fly fishing. Yeah, it makes sense. Because I have to is the perfect answer to that question, by the way. That's really all anyone ever needs to say.
I must. I simply must.
I must.
Something I must
I am,
do.
therefore I fish.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. Okay, number 5, and the last question of Mitchie's Fishies 5 is, what fly pattern represents you best and why? If you were a fly, what would you be?
It is absolutely the hot flash minnow because
Awesome.
I am in my 50s. I am having hot flashes.
Oh my God.
I love that minnow pattern.
Hilarious. I love that. The hot flash minnow. Hey, it's a great fly pattern too.
It's a great
It
fly
is.
pattern. Yeah.
Catch all kinds of fish on the hot flash minnow.
That's right. It's perfect for everything. Just
Uh,
a different color combination.
I love how quick you were to answer all of those questions. Like, you didn't even have to think about any of the answers.
That's the quickest.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you.
Well,
We
thank
usu-
goodness, because when you said that, I was like, damn, I should have listened to your podcast before I was on here so I know what the questions are.
Yeah.
We usually like a lot, like 20 to 30, like 20 minutes for that segment, because especially with the favorite fishing memory, people are like, I don't know, and then
Yeah,
it's like
this one, that one.
that might have been the quickest anybody's ever answered that. And
Yeah.
Oman is new.
I love it.
Oman is new, and the hot flash minnow is definitely
That's so good. I love
a
that.
That's
very
right.
unique answer.
So are you still fly tying these days? Like, you still tie flies?
I still tie flies, but I don't tie flies as much as I should.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the case for so many of us. I'm the exact same.
Yeah, I've got like a mountain of materials, and
Yeah.
then I end up going to buy them. It's really
Yeah.
embarrassing when you go to the store and buy a woolly bugger. You're like,
Yeah, I know.
what am I doing?
There's something wrong with that. I know.
the fly shop guy's just looking at me like,
From across the room.
Nah.
So do you have any big plans coming up for Dunn, or any big fishing trips coming up in the next year that you want to talk about?
So I am going to Argentina and Patagonia in March
Whoa.
as a combined effort with Jerry Meyer from Athena and Artemis and the Driftless Angler. And so we're going with Andy's Drifters, and we are it's 1 week fishing for Dorado, 1 week fishing for big trout.
wow,
And
nice.
we only have, I think, like one more spot in one of our trips. So, that filled up fast. And so I'm looking forward to that because Argentina really was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to.
Okay, so you've been before. Did you fish the last time you were there?
Yeah, so I did a hosted trip through Orvis.
Okay.
I was the host for one of theirs, and I didn't
cool.
go with Andy's Drifters. I went with Rio Manso, and it was beautiful. The food was fantastic. The wine was even better, and the fishing was. I mean, it is the most. If you haven't been there, it is the most beautiful place on earth. I think it is. Like, you know, those pictures you see where the mountain looks exactly like it looks. You can't tell where the lake is because it just looks like a perfect mirror image. That was how it was every single day. And giant. You're throwing giant, Chernobyl patterns on top water for these giant trout that just jump out of the water like a tarpon and get them. It's so fun.
That's so cool.
So fun.
And also Dorado for a week too. That is. Have you ever caught a Dorado?
No, I haven't. So I've never been Dorado fishing. I mean,
it looks cool. That's like top of my list, I think. Like,
yeah,
I've never gone
so
either,
cool.
But those are such cool looking fish.
So fun. And and I will say that both the men and the women in Argentina are beautiful. So I mean, there's that.
Good looking people, good food, great fishing. Like that's
I love good food on a fishing trip.
I
love good food on a fishing trip. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes.
I love
absolutely.
it. Well, that's a fun trip. 100%. Look forward to that one because I think that's like everybody's like top trip. That's like a huge bucket list trip for so many people.
Yeah. I'm fortunate to be able to go again.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think we have come to the part of the episode where it's shameless plug time, which means how can people get your magazine? How do people find you? Are you on Instagram? What's going on? How can our listeners get to your content?
Yeah, you can find us at Dun. That's DUN, like the mayfly. If you are a fly angler and you don't know what a dun is, you better go look that up right now.
Yeah,
so,
start with Google.
Dun,
or you live in Miami, one or the other.
Yes, it's not DONE. It's not DUNN like Dun and Bradstreet. It's DUN like fly fishing. Dunmagazine.com, and you can order our magazines on there. You can, see all the content. All the content is free to read online. The stuff that's in print is not always online, but there is probably over 450 other articles that you can read.
Wicked.
You can follow me too, Jen Ripple on Instagram or Dun Magazine on Instagram. So
done. Everybody follow. We'll put those links in the show notes too, so you can check it out on SoundCloud. Jen, thank you so much for coming on the show. Like, this was super cool, just getting to know you and hearing about your fly fishing world. It's all really awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for all you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no problem.
You too,
Thanks.
100%.
Yeah,
all
you
right.
too.
All right.
Well, thanks.
Take
and
care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
See you, Jen.
Bye.
Aldo, my friend.
Mitch, my friend.
What a great podcast. Jen is so cool.
I know. I mean, like, pretty jam-packed career for, being in fishing for 7 years.
Yeah. Oh, she's joining.
Well, I mean, longer than that, but professionally for 7 years, right?
Oh, yeah. Like, to do all the, magazine work and everything. Like, yeah, it's cool. I love hearing about people that, get into fly. I mean, Susan was kind of like that, too, where they get into fly fishing and it's like, it's so many people we've talked to, over the years. Actually, pretty much everybody. When you start fly fishing, you just get so into it. You get so into it that you start your other creative, your creativity just comes into it. You start a magazine or like us, we start a podcast or other people, start a clothing brand. Like, everybody kind of just gets so into it. It's cool. I don't know many other hobbies that can afford that kind of freedom to just create.
Yeah, it's a space where people are also really receptive of creativity too, right? People are so ready to they're just dying for fishing content, whether it be print or whether it be video, photo, podcast now, of course. Visual art, paintings.
Yeah.
You know?
Two things, Oman and Dorado. Okay, we gotta go to Oman. Is the second time I've heard of Oman. I saw the first time was at the IF4.
The IF4, yeah.
There was a film about Oman. Those guys went to Oman and fished crazy looking fish, and they were the most beautiful fish. And I never thought about fishing in a place like that. So it's crazy. Jen brought it up again. Yellow permit, that sounds like a pretty wild trip. Yellow permit in Oman.
Yeah, it'd be so sweet amongst all the other crazy fish there.
Oh my God, the craziest fish, man.
Whatever, et cetera, et cetera.
And then golden Dorado, that's easily moved up to my number one want to fish it fish.
Yeah?
Yeah, man, they're so cool.
Why?
They're so cool looking. I remember the first time I saw one was
more than peacock bass.
Oh no, peacock bass are way up there too. But I gotta say, Dorado, like, I don't know, man. So the first time I saw Dorado was, I want to say, I don't know, like years and years, like maybe like over a decade ago. I think it was, I can't remember who it was that I saw it, but I also saw some photos of April Vokey fishing Dorado, and like those fish just look gnarly. And that wasn't that long ago. But it's like,
They're so gnarly.
so cool. And the place you fish them too, you know, like, oh, and there's also Arapaima. I think just kind of south, like really south. Arapaima, Golden Dorado, Peacock, but like, let's go to the Amazon, man.
Totally. I'm obviously
COVID though, bro.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I was looking at it today because the government of Barbados has offered that if you can work from home,
Yeah.
you can work from home, but have home be the Barbados.
So where
for
do
Canadians?
They, do they like
for Canadians? For Canadians? Sorry.
Why Canadians? Why just Canadians? I wonder. I guess it's like
I don't know. It's some deal that they had with
Canadians.
I don't know. Canadians.
Where do they put you? Like, where do you, like a tent?
Well, you find your own.
A Commodore?
Yeah, but they'll grant you a visa for longer than just like a travel visa. They'll grant you a
cool.
12-month visa.
Should we do it?
I might do it for a month. I'm not joking, man. I can work from home, so I might. I'm seriously thinking.
Yeah.
What if I just find a COVID safe area, and if it's the Barbados, I looked into Barbados fishing, and
Go rent a house for like a month. You know, like when
probably not as crazy as Belize and the Bahamas, but there's bonefish.
Well, if you also
there's
if you spend like a month there, you're gonna catch fish. You know.
That's
like,
what I'm saying.
so
You
much
know,
time
like
to explore and.
that's what I'm saying. You can surf. That's the other thing is you can surf in the Barbados, which you can't in other in some
Scuba
of those
diving.
other islands. That too. Learn how to scuba dive.
Yeah.
Imagine you just like you end your
COVID.
day. You work from home.
Yeah.
You're COVID safe,
Yeah.
and then you just swim the ocean or
Go for a dip. Go cast some bonefish, and then like have a little cocktail and.
yeah. You can time your
Sounds pretty
work
nice.
day. You can time your work day on the tide.
That'd be so cool. I'd love to be on a beach, like just looking at the full moon, like, you know, listening to Martin Denny, you know, carry me away as we sip a cocktail and cast in our hot pants.
in our underwear.
That's probably what it'd be. That sounds pretty sweet. I don't know. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if it's just saying,
Yeah.
just saying.
Interesting.
It's not out of the realm.
I wonder like how that's like wonder how many people will go. 'Cause
I don't know. If like
everybody's working
you
from home, you know, like it's
But I don't have to physically be in an office. So
no. You're going to Temagami next week though.
yes. Well, by the time this gets released, we'll have come back already.
So I hope it was a good trip.
I hope
Future.
for future me that
Isn't
it
that
was a
weird?
good trip.
Like,
Yeah,
You'll be
we're
listening
doing
to
the-
this. You'll listen to this when you're back, and you'll know how it went. But now we're like, oh, I wonder how it's gonna. It's so weird.
I know it's so weird. Well, we're doing the Lady Evelyn trip again, Yilma and rookies in a different area. Because the first time, although the trip was amazing, we did get sidelined by some thunderstorms. So now we're going to do the full shebang of the river.
So you're gonna. You were gonna do the whole Lady Evelyn system into the lake.
Maybe not. No, maybe not that far, but we're going to do a lot more than what we
of
did.
it, yeah.
What we did last time.
And you've got some people coming along too. It's like a hosted kind of trip. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. We're hosting a trip into the Lady Evelyn with Temagami Outfitting, which is cool. And we just got back from Elk Lake
We did.
a week
That was
ago.
fun. Yeah.
That was super fun. Mitch, you caught a serious pike.
Yeah, nice one. Like the biggest one I've caught at Elk Lake, like in the lake itself, like in the in Mountain Lake.
Mountain Lake, yeah.
It was great. Like we had so much fun. I mean, it's always fun going up there because it's just so chill, you know. Like you just drive up, you know, the beautiful Lund boats. You just hop in and go, and they're so reliable and fun to drive down the Montreal. Bombing a boat down the Montreal River, like going 25 kilometers an hour. It's like super fun.
It's
super
just
fun.
It's just it's littered with fish. There's fish everywhere.
We saw a bear swimming across the river.
We saw a family of eagles. Remember?
Yeah, we saw babies like eating fish, and it was tons of wildlife. Got some nice fish. Hung out with our friends Roger and Mary. We saw carrots there and all those wonderful people at Elk Lake. Yeah, it was great. It was super fun.
Yeah, we got pretty lucky despite this whole pandemic thing this summer. I'd like to think.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that all these businesses, lodges, outfitters, guides were able to make something of the year. I know like a lot of people took a big hit, but at least the people that we know, at least they were able to have a year of some kind. Because geez, shitty. But it's been cool just spending time in Ontario. We go up there a lot. We go up to these places a lot, but just to make that our kind of year, just hanging around Ontario, it's been fun.
Hey man, we did Nagami.
Yeah.
We did, Temagami a couple times.
Yeah.
Or at least I did.
Yep.
Did
Elk Lake.
Elk Lake. We did Your Cottage, of course.
Oh yes, did we ever?
Did the credit? Well, you didn't join us on the credit, but
I didn't finish the credit this year.
That's crazy, but man, do we ever have a good spring?
I know. I know. You guys.
Me, Yilma, especially Josh on the fly. Jeez, Josh, my God.
Yeah, you guys were having fun. I need to hit the credit, maybe this weekend or something.
Dude, do it. We've got a month left. Trout season. This is September 2nd right now. Trout season.
Maybe there's some tricos kicking around still. I can go catch some brook trout. It's been because I left right at the beginning of trout and I went to the warm water world, and it was funny. I was talking about this the other day. I was at the beginning of COVID. I was like, this is terrible, but I was like, oh man, if I could work from home just until a couple days into bass opener, just so I could live at the cottage and work and then go bass fishing after work. And then look at us now. It's months past that, still working from home. But yeah, I got to fish bass every day. Lunchtime, go down, just cast off the dock. It was a heck of a summer. Heck of a summer, my friend. But it's a good way to end it back up in Temagami for you guys. And then I'm looking forward to steelheading. I can't wait to go steelheading.
Yeah, that'll be cool. It's always nice to bust out the two-handers.
I can't wait. I can't wait to go steelhead.
What am I doing now? I got him sending Yilma a picture that he can't find.
Yeah, Yilma couldn't join us on the show today because he is working. But I saw him walk into the office because I'm actually recording at the office. I've been working at the office. Nobody's here, so I just come in here to work to get a boardroom. And I saw Yilma walk in because he's got a camera because he's doing a shoot. But he couldn't
that's so awesome.
Yeah, it's Yilma.
No, it's awesome. What's awesome? Oh, it's awesome. It's always fun to do a shoot,
Yeah, you gotta learn how to shoot, baby.
Hey man, you gotta learn how to shoot, baby.
When are you guys going to Temagami this Saturday, right?
We leave Saturday morning.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited. We leave Saturday morning. We're gonna spend Saturday and Sunday getting ready for the trip. Yeah. And then I think Sunday night is when some of the guests come, and some are coming early Monday morning.
Yeah.
And then we shuttle off to to Gamble Lake, which is the entrance of the Lady Ave river system, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And and then we just go. I think the one thing is it's going to be cooler and there's going to be some rain, which actually might work in our favor. So I'm stoked because it's been hot, right? These brookies need some cold weather, and that river system probably needs some water. So that's probably, will lead to some good fishing. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
I'm sure it will. And you know what? Either way, it'll lead some good times because you never have a bad time with Temagami Outfit & Co. It is a fun time when Eric is there and you're in the woods.
Eric's not going to be there, but yeah.
Oh, right. Eric's not going, but Clint is going, eh? His
Clint's excited. Clint's a
right-hand man.
Yeah, Clint's a really great outdoors guide, and I got to hang out with him a little bit this summer, but definitely not 4 nights worth of hanging.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to learn from him too, because obviously he knows,
Yeah.
I got to work on my canoe stroke. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got a paddle now. You own a nice paddle.
I own a nice paddle.
Time to work it out, baby.
Handmade wooden paddle.
Yeah.
And just gotta get better.
You know what else I'm looking forward to? Just because we're talking about, I guess it's September, fall's coming, and we're like, wow, what a summer. And we're just talking about the future of the rest of the year. I'm looking forward to, and also the next year, I'm looking forward to ice fishing a lot.
You were saying that.
I can't wait to go ice fishing. Honestly, Where
do you want to go first?
Well, I don't know. It's a good question. I want to go up to Temagami and I want to go up to Elk Lake and maybe fish some of those back lakes for be it pike or walleye or trout. That'd be so crazy to catch a brook trout through the ice. I've never done that. That'd be awesome. And then obviously Simcoe, Lake Simcoe. Let's just go fish for a whitefish. I haven't ice fished a lot in the last, I don't know, 10 years really, because I've been just away from that kind of world, I feel like. So, but I'm really not. So it's like, let's just do it. Let's go out and ice fish more because it's fun.
I'm with you, man. I mean, that obviously the winter camping trip we took with Temagami, but then also I took a day trip with Adis.
Yeah.
Who's been doing a lot of our photos recently, joining us on our trips. Him and I went to Simcoe for the day, and I caught a huge whitefish.
Oh yeah,
and that was so fun. And like, it's not even an hour drive.
No, it's not. You know what you should do?
What?
Now that I'm thinking about this, how fun this would be. I think that you and Yilmi. Because we were like, yo, are you guys gonna have a good trip? Oh, hope future me knows I had a good trip. All that stupid shit we were talking about a little while ago. Why don't you and Yilma like
five minutes ago?
Yeah, why don't you and Yilma record yourselves like in a tent one night, just like towards the end of your trip about how the trip's been, and I'll just plop it in to the last like 5 minutes of the show.
Of this show right here?
This show right now.
I think that's a great idea. Well, here's me and Yilma in the middle of the Temagami wilderness.
Thanks, everybody. Hey, this is actually this is Mitch, and I'm recording this weeks later while editing the show. They did go to Temagami, and they did go and catch a ton of brook trout, and Aldo and Yilma had a totally good time, and it was a huge success of a trip. And then I texted Aldo and said, "Do you have the clips?" And he's like, "Man, we were just too slammed. We didn't even have the time to record the clips." I was like, okay. So, yeah, I mean, I can tell you basically probably how it went. Aldo and Yilma canoed a lot and fished a lot, covered a lot of water, and caught like some really nice fish and ate some nice food and had some laughs. I mean, that's pretty much always how the fishing trips go, So anyway, sorry that we didn't record that, but at least I'm here, right? Okay. So thanks so much, everybody. Back to the show. Wow, that sounds like one heck of a good trip.
My God, that trip was crazy. Who would have guessed that all of those things would have happened?
And you guys would have just like reminisced like that. Anyway, Jen Ripple, that was awesome getting to know you and chatting about Dun Magazine. Everybody check out the show notes on SoundCloud for the links to Jen's Instagram, Dun's Instagram, and also where you can read her magazine, all that amazing content. Thanks for listening, everybody at home. That's it for me, Mitch, Aldo.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. And a little sidebar of thanks to Susan, our former guest, for introducing us to Jen. It's cool that, Jen had mentioned a network of like-minded female anglers, and that's definitely cool to get introduced to that network through Susan. So thanks, Susan.
Thanks,
and
Susan.
Thanks, Jen, obviously, for your time and the work you do with with the magazine and the organizations that you're part of. And hope you solve that pesky Asian carp problem.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm making it sound so simple. I'm like,
I know.
Well, I hope you fix a button on your shirt.
I know.
It's like,
we'll see. It's gonna be a long road. Everybody, thanks for listening, and take care.
You can find all of SoFly's content at sofly.ca. On Instagram, we're at the SoFly Crew. You can reach us at thesoflycrew@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or concerns. On Facebook, we're SoFly, and our podcast is available on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify.